We haven't really started the chat show yet, and I feel like we've solved so many people's problems already. Lovely stuff. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Let's get right stuck into it. Let's start off with some trans stuff. I know we've got a lot of trans people, a lot of trans panelists on the show today, which is lovely. Plus our auxiliary cisgendered guest in guise of Anna Spark. Welcome, welcome. So shit, what's happened? J.K. Rowling's a dick, but
yeah,
there's been lots of. Now, let me gather myself because I'm sweaty. One thing that I was worried about a couple of weeks ago when we had a similar discussion was that like the Labour Party wouldn't get behind trans rights because now it seems like it's a little bit more of an immediate issue. And we are going to need like a mainstream political party to take a stance on our behalf. That would be nice because we're, people.
yeah.
So that would be great, right? Now it looks like Keir Starmer might do that, but he won't say like in what appearance that will be. So I was wondering if the panel, how optimistic they feel about mainstream political party support with regards to transition.
I just wanted to point out how great it was that you went, shit, J.K. Rowling's a dick. I imagine if that was the way of hearing the news about J.K. Rowling for the first time.
I'm just very keen to educate people, Ava.
Yeah.
Doing a fantastic job.
Water go.
Can I ask, as trans people as yourself, I don't know whether many of you guys were Potter fans yourself. I'm a Potter fan, and I feel, there's always that argument of do you separate the art from the artist and stuff like that. So how are you guys feeling about the works? Like, obviously, if you already hated Harry Potter, then happy days. But like, if you were a fan.
No, Jonny, like you were quite a big fan, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Still am to varying degrees. The main way I deal with it is just headcanon the fuck out of it. So Tonk's obviously non-binary.
Yeah.
I think Ron's a trans boy. I mean, his entire character is just like trying to prove himself as like this, as like someone on par with Harry Potter. That's big trans mask energy. But no, you're going to get a lot of different opinions from trans people on this. I'm generally of the opinion that if it's something that brings you comfort, you are fine to carry on enjoying it. I personally am doing that. I'm not going to be giving, or I'm going to do my best to not give J.K. Rowling any of my money. But I've already got like a lot of the content I need, so I don't really need to. But yeah, there are other people who are much less comfortable with doing that. It's an interesting one actually, because when I found out about Graham Linehan, I was quite quick to distance myself from most of his work. So I don't quite know what it. I think it's
why. What's it with Graham Linehan?
Oh,
shit!
I'm sorry, who
he's
is
a dick.
He wrote Father Ted.
He
wrote.
Yeah, I think it might just be that his work was less culturally significant to my childhood, so it was easier to let go of that.
Yeah, you weren't sort of like smuggling Father Ted novels in your trench coat into school, were you? Simon Lomas gives giving Paisley's scarf a shout out there in chat. Thank you so much, Simon, for joining us. And Marshmallow Fairy saying how headcanons save literature. I think I definitely agree with that. Paisley, were you a big Harry Potter fan?
I pretended a little in school because we all had to read the book, and well, I say we had to. It was the
one Harry Potter book.
That one Harry Potter. This is how much I know about it. I just pretended.
There was a sequel? What?
There was was it Wizards? Magic? I actually can't think of anything else.
Basically, there's three priests. They all live in the same island.
But no, it was kind of a. I was given the first book. Well, I wasn't a huge fan of it. Everyone started reading it. Thought I better read it, and it was kind of in my school. There was so many piles of the same Harry Potter book just piled up as we walked in. So that was kind of the only, I sort of liked bits of it just to kind of, what everyone else was talking about, but otherwise, not a big fan.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Would the panelists here, would you consider yourselves Labour voters?
Yeah, I would.
Like, so
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it's just because it's like between Australia and England, it kind of changes slightly. But yeah, I'm definitely a Labour voter in England. I'm definitely not a Conservative voter anywhere. But over here, I agree more with the Greens Party, and we have a party called the Sex Party, which I kind of wish they'd change their name because they just make it so easy for Tories to have a go at them. But I lean more towards them over here, but definitely Labour in the UK.
Sure. And are people optimistic about the party's support of trans rights?
I hope.
Oh, there's a lot of hope. Hope. I'm full of hope.
But then, considering because you've seen it in the past with anti-Semitism, where he needed to just go, no, we're not anti-Semitic, this is what we meant, and he held back, and I'm worried he'll do that again. Yeah,
but now it's because it's a different leader, isn't it?
Yeah.
Starmer's been a little bit better, particularly, on anti-Semitism. He's come out in front of that and has seemed to tackle it better. Although, I would argue that it was more of an issue people had with Corbyn rather. But then again, I'm not Jewish, so maybe I should shut up. Anyway, so he is sort of getting out ahead of issues, and whilst I know that he hasn't made any big announcements regarding his stance on trans rights, I kind of feel like he's done that on purpose to not piss off moderates, and
that's my worry, really.
Yeah.
The more popular side of the vote. I don't know what I don't really know the percentages, but it certainly would seem to someone who has no kind of presence in the trans community that it's not quite as much of a clear-cut issue as anti-Semitism is basically if either you're against anti-Semitism or you're a Nazi. Whereas I think with the trans issue, there's this whole narrative, and it isn't true, but that if you're for trans people, you're against women's rights somehow. So, and I think a big problem with, and I don't really know how Labour would really tackle this, but a big problem with it is they kind of have to take a side with it, and whichever one they do is going to really piss off a huge chunk of the voters. Yeah. So I'm not that optimistic that even if he is, if he does sort of take a stand backing trans rights, whether that's going to backfire or not.
Sure.
Well, it definitely made a good point there, because if someone says, I'm anti-Semitic, they're a very, very small number of the community who will support them and be like, I'm anti-Semitic as well. But if someone says, I'm not okay with trans rights and I think it's misogynistic, there are people who will back them up on that 100%.
Well, the whole
could very much split people.
The whole thing around trans rights at the moment is it's being framed as legitimate concerns. That's part of anti-trans rhetoric. They're just legitimate concerns.
Yeah.
I find it so frustrating because as a cisgendered woman, I just want to shake every single one of them and be like, you're such an idiot. You're such an idiot. I used to work as a security guard, and one of my main jobs, because apparently as a female guard, the only things I was capable of was to check the toilets. And I found men and women sneaking into each toilet all the time just because they needed to take a shit. So it's all well and good for them to do that there, but then the moment someone actually needs to use a loo for the person that they feel they are, you know what I'm saying? I'm rambling because it's 5 a.m. But
no, I think it's really good to get a cisgender perspective on this stream.
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly from a cisgender woman. So thank you very, very much for your support.
Right. I do just want to listen because it's also it's not my.
Well, it's so odd because And I mean, I know that we chatted about this the other week, but like the fact is if a predator did want to enter a lady's toilets, like they already can, just by walking in. It's not like they have. Like, I mean, most toilets don't have fucking doors anyway. Like to enter the public toilets, but. Janitors, like you could dress up as a janitor, and I think that's so much more easy, like so much easier than dressing up as a woman. I mean, any trans woman will attest to, like, you know, they have to go through a lot of shit before they start feeling. You know.
And you'd have more rights as a janitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just fear-mongering. Like, there's no evidence to prove. There's evidence to prove against it. Like in Hawaii, they've said there's been absolutely no increase in sexual assault in toilets since we've allowed trans people in. There's loads of evidence against that.
Well, we've allowed it since 2010, and there hasn't been any evidence.
Yeah, exactly. People are talking about it as if trans women aren't allowed in the toilets at the moment, and they're trying to stop them. I'm like, no, we are allowed in, and there's been absolutely no rise in abuse whatsoever.
Yeah,
this is a thing that really baffles me, because in my secondary school, so I went to two secondary schools. The first one I went to shut after I finished year 8, and then it merged with another one in year 9.
What did you do?
With the new building, with the new building, they had gender neutral toilets that were just individual cubicles that like had a lock on them, and that was fine. And it just really baffles me that, like, even if you're getting involved in this whole kind of bullshit debate about whether, you know, it's more dangerous for cis women if trans women have to use women's bathrooms, is a very easy middle ground here where you can just make more gender neutral toilets and individual secure cubicles, and that would solve most of these issues, which aren't even real issues.
It's one of the things.
Why do toilets have to be gendered anyway? It just makes no sense whatsoever.
Just to get rid of your waste. Like, make it complicated.
I know, like, I spoke to my boss, like, so I work at a venue, and I think that these rules that they want to bring in would seriously affect, well, actually, all live venue, pretty much any venue in the UK, like, it seriously affects them, and, like, it's sort of like being brought in without their consideration, without their say on it. At a time when financially venues are completely fucked with no financial support from the government whatsoever, and they're basically suggesting, like, if that were to happen, it's almost a suggestion of a ban of transgender people in public spaces, because they can't really use the toilets like with dignity. So, you know, for us as a venue who run a lot of drag events, who run a lot of LGBT plus events, that is a community that we want to support, and the government are basically banning them from entering our premises. They're like cutting an entire community away from being able to buy tickets from us and support us financially at a time we're completely fucked, but also we're ostracizing a group of vulnerable people at a time when, you know, I know we need to be socially distancing and being mindful of how we integrate back into socializing and stuff, but we do still need that as an option. We can't just take that away from a group of already vulnerable people.
I just had an idea. I thought, why not we just have shitting toilets and pissing toilets?
Yes.
And that's it. Because I have IBS, and I would love to know that if I go into those, I will have no judgment. I can create as much smell as I want.
Well, exactly.
If you go into the shitting toilet, are you allowed to piss? If one
only if it's a secondary thing with your poo. If the bouncer hears
you
that
thought
you're
about
just
this.
only thought
You've got whole rules out.
It's all coming into my mind now. I'm going to write up a bill. I'm going to take it to Parliament.
Okay.
But the moment you finish shitting, you have to stop peeing as well, otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. And like the shitting one can have loads of perfume, and the pissing one can have the sound of waterfalls and stuff. Done.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so, and could you, like, Anna, could you, as a cisgender woman, is there anywhere where you like see where they're coming, like, do you see where your logic and theirs splits, or are they just completely opposite to you?
They're to me it's just stupid, because I've got a pub in Melbourne that I used to frequent that always had unisex toilets, and then in a far corner it's got girls' toilets just as a secondary thing. but those ones they're always broken. So everyone just used the unisex toilets. It never occurred to me that I'm the only girl here. There's 4 guys here, cisgendered guys that are a foot taller than me. Never once did I feel unsafe. So like, if I felt like that in a toilet where I'm surrounded by the people that are most likely statistically to do something to me, like to be in the same room as someone who's transgender, they're more empathetic, they've been through enough crap, they don't want any more shit on their plate. I would feel more safe sharing a toilet with them any day of the week than fucking Billy Big Bollocks who plays at the local football club. Like, it's so unnecessary. So yeah, I remember I saw a comedian recently who just came out clearly as a TERF, and like, it was just so shocking to me because I wasn't even really aware that there was women calling themselves feminists that were having this argument. It really upset me because I thought that we were on the right team. Like, but yeah, people are dumb fucks.
I do think these things can always solve by like, there's just a whole generation of people that have never met trans people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not even entirely sure my parents like fully understand that I'm trans, but they've like met me loads. Like, I came out of one of them, but like they're still like completely unaware that we exist. I find it very odd, and I've chatted to them about it. They just kind of pretend it didn't happen.
You need to wear that trans flag behind you next time you go.
Good afternoon, mother.
Where are the
make you a scarf
I want to know
if you
where these cisgender men are who are transitioning just so they can go into the toilets to assault women. Like, that's a lot of work. There's other places to do it.
I almost respect the effort. Yeah,
it's weird, isn't it? Because like, I mean, they don't have to do that. All they have to do is, you know, set up an open mic night. You know, like, they don't have. If you want to assault women, you know, just get a Netflix special. It's easier.
Yeah,
I think.
Isn't it you get a Netflix special once you've assaulted women?
You're right. It's a point-based system. You are right.
Whole chicken egg situation. What came first?
I suppose I'd like to say that there is going to be there's some protests around the UK. I believe this weekend. There were going to be some next month, but they've been moved forward because there's a sense of urgency on trans rights. There's one that I'm going to be attending in Manchester on this Saturday. And I believe it starts 11 a.m. at Piccadilly Gardens. We've got some amazing speakers already confirmed. And what's really nice is I'm seeing a lot of voices from across the trans spectrum. So plenty of trans mask voices, which are always sadly lacking in these events. But won't be at this one. So I would urge everybody, if you're near an urban area, have a Google, find out if there's any protests near you, because solidarity is much needed.
And for me, can you guys post about it as much as you can on your socials? Because we don't have anything going on at the moment in Melbourne. But
yeah,
I like
sure.
watching the stories and stuff like that a bit.
Definitely.
Yeah, sorry, someone was mentioning. So I have to do I do 5 things at once in this, and I get flustered very easily because I'm ADHD. Sorry, Marshmallow Fairy saying that's an interesting point because her partner or their partner has not knowingly met a trans person, but he's all for it. But he doesn't know that they might potentially be non-binary. So that's exciting. That's exciting news here on the stream. And any final things about trans issues people would want to make clear before we get down to it and start burying some bodies?
The government have just, because there was this, I've not seen it spoken about much, but there was a 70% public consensus to change in gender roles, and they just went, nah, fuck that, we're going to change it. It's because apparently it was an avalanche of trans activists which swayed it. And you're like, well, if you're going to let a majority override a majority because it was swayed by trans activists, why not override Brexit because it was swayed by lies on buses and racism? You dumb cunt.
From what I've seen as well, I think a lot of people have done a really good job of writing to their MPs and stuff. And if you haven't done so, please do. Please continue to do that. I saw a reply which came directly from government as well. Like they got a reply from the Tory government, and from their wording, they say like basically, and this has come from the Tories as well. They word it as trans adults have nothing to worry about. It basically suggests that they're not going to change the bathroom policy, but they are going to keep their like they want to stop hormone treatment to anyone under the age of 18, which would ruin lives and kill people. Let's not fuck about. So that sounds like the stance that will be taken. It's like I don't think that bathroom laws will change. I think that they're just coming for our kids.
Yeah, and the more that like these things come up and they're being debated when they shouldn't be debated, you know, we're not up for debate. Our lives aren't up for debate.
Yeah.
That you get more people that are then like will make bathrooms feel unsafe. More people might speak up against sort of if I went in or anyone went into a bathroom and sorry, I'm scrambling words now, but this is the thing, like the more and more this comes into sort of mainstream media, that now there's things that we should be talking about trans rights, we should be sort of that thing, we shouldn't be debating, and the debates cause all of these kind of either confusion or just attacks, or people might think that they can or they should, and that it sort of creates this horrible and scary space. I mean, I every time I walk into a bathroom, I hold my breath. And I mean, not recently actually, because I've not been. I forget where I am now, but before lockdown, I walked into a bathroom bar toilet. It was really busy, and these two people just turned around to me and went, "Why are you in here?" And I went, "To pee." But also, I just went, because I knew I always feel that that's going to come. And they went, "Oh, yeah, sorry, why are we asking?" And then that was it. I was just sort of, that's what's happened. But I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know how everyone else feels. But the fact that I don't feel like I can just go to the toilet in public without worrying what is behind that door, it's quite scary, really. And there's other things as well. I mean, but yeah, I'm sorry, I'll hold it up. Yeah, sorry, I'm rambling now.
No.
If I'm having like a day like today, for instance, where I'm sick and I can't put makeup on for whatever reason, I just won't use public toilets. In general, I'll try and avoid it. I mean, obviously there's a point where you can't, but I try not to let it get to that point. I find it not interesting, like, but the government seems to like wait until there's a distraction with everything else, and then they go, "Oh yeah, we're ditching trans rights, we're ditching the Gender Recognition Act," just to kind of like sneak it under the radar because there's so much else going on. But with like there's a lot of stuff I actually don't know about because it's just so hard. To deal with your own mental health, everything else you've got, and then go on Twitter and find out about everything that's going on. Because the minute I log on to Twitter, it'll say like trans trending or something, and I'll look into it and I'll try and get educated, but I just have to just turn it off sometimes. And
I ended up having my mum's a magistrate, and the courts should be starting again soon. And she said something like dead turfy to me on the phone about like so she's talking about like prisons, and there's she was saying, "Oh well, there's issues in prisons at the moment with men going through women's changes." By that phrase, I think she meant trans women. And she said that there actually have been some assaults and stuff, and I was like, "What?" I thought there hadn't been any, like, because to my knowledge, there had been like a couple by Karen White, but other than that, I wasn't aware that there had been any other assaults by transgender inmates. She was like, "Oh no, there's loads." So so after that conversation, I had to go and fucking down a fucking Google rabbit hole, learning everything about transgender people in prison, and obviously it turns out it's an awful experience all round. I mean, prison in general is fucked. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it is awful.
So, there's usually not much assault going on in prison.
Oh yeah, exactly,
anyway.
right. The thing that I found really sad is if you do Google it, very quickly it comes up with results of about transgender prisoners being more likely to attack people, supposedly 5 times more likely if you read the Times. But what's really what's really conveniently missed out is the fact is the rate of which we are attacked. Because if I looked at the numbers, and obviously it's not nice to know that people of your community are attacking anybody. But the rate at which we are being attacked in prisons is fucking horrendous.
So that could be skewed because, like, even if, say, those numbers were true, that could be just the fact that those people were defending themselves and it was just angled and, like, they just blamed the transgender person.
There's so much. There's also, like, there are horrible people in prison and their gender, like, doesn't come into it. Like,
I was going to say is
people rape and people are different gender. And I'm sorry to use that word without a warning. But we're going to be talking about a lot of abuse. And
rape doesn't usually come with a warning, so that's all right.
Very true. Very true. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say, but I'm sure it was an excellent point.
Could I quickly say with the toilets thing, this is a Band-Aid option, but I recently got nearly diagnosed with Crohn's, and so I donated to Crohn's Colitis UK, and I found out at IBS. So because I'm a piece of shit and I'm broke, I stopped donating to Crohn's Colitis UK. But in the first donation, they send you a welcome pack, including a Crohn's colitis card. I'll see if I can find it. But basically, you can use it and just say, I'm about to shit myself. Can I use your staff toilet or can I use your locked disabled toilet and stuff? And I don't think it's in this wallet. No manager wants the shitstorm of them turning down someone with Crohn's or colitis. Like, and I've gotten out of a train fine with it. Like, it's gold, and you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to have a doctor's certificate or whatever. So maybe consider making a £5 donation to Crohn's Colitis UK and having that for emergencies. If you're having a day where you really do not want to go into a public toilet, just go. I've used Boots staff toilet. They walk me past all the stock. They really trust someone with Crohn's.
That's the best double meaning I've ever heard of shitstorm.
But yeah, a little hack if you want to get on it.
But yeah, sorry to, like, because I know prisons is a horrible issue to just start wading into. I mean, there's so much nuance there, and again, like, I sat down and read articles for 8 minutes because I couldn't quite make it to 10, and so I'm not really as clued up as I should be to guide a discussion on that. Let's get to what this stream, like the main purpose of this stream was, which is to discuss abuse in comedy, which is an industry that we all work in some form or another. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, it's worth mentioning that there are a couple of people in here who are survivors of abuse that they have suffered at the hands of comedians or industry professionals, promoters maybe. And it's not just comedy industry. It is worth saying, I think this is a backlash from the wrestling industry, actually, in the UK, having similar airings of grievances. So yeah, some names are being named. We're going to try and keep those names off this stream. We don't think that's what this is here for. We're here for an open discussion. Chat, if you have any questions at all, let us know. But yeah, let's discuss some shitheads.
Yeah, my sentiments exactly.
Now, Anna, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with yourself,
Okay.
because you named a name this week, the name of someone who assaulted you. I wasn't aware that you had even been assaulted, and I certainly wasn't aware this person had, because I work with this person quite a lot, actually. And we'll have to change quite a few things moving forward. with regards to him.
Yeah.
What? So, because I don't want you to explain what the situation of what happened, but is there like is there a particular thing that was overlooked in terms of safeguarding on this situation that happened to you?
Well,
were you left alone
no.
with him, or?
Yeah, well, it was. I kind of led myself to believe that I was in a safe situation, and like that's something that I struggled to forgive myself for, because I at the time was seeing someone. He knew about that. He'd even like told a bartender on that night that we were out, who we were out with other comedians and stuff, to leave her alone. She's got a boyfriend. And I was like, oh, thanks. That's really sweet of you. So I was really kind of tricked. And then before anything actually happened, we were doing drugs, which is another thing that makes it just even more harder for people to believe that. Yeah. But anyway, he brought out what he said was MDMA, but I believe it was ketamine. And then I passed out. So it was very much kind of like, I was cornered. So I wouldn't ever, there's no one in the industry other than him that I would have to blame for the situation. And to be honest, throughout the whole last year and a half, I have had a huge amount of support from the couple of people that did know. It just was getting to a point where I wanted to go through the correct avenues, in my opinion, like going to the police and stuff, and before I actually went public with it. So this was more of a last resort. But yeah. I don't want to get into a ramble on it. You can ask me as many questions. I'm open to talk about it, but yeah, I just want to make sure I'm being concise.
It's because this is someone that was quite established in the industry, particularly in like the local circuit. I mean, it's like they've got quite a high up job now down in London for a particularly big tour company. So it'd be interesting. I'd be really But it'd be very interesting to see what happens there, because I think he's the first head of comedy that they've had. So
maybe they could hire someone that's not a straight white man. That might be
That'll never happen. Wait, you're suggesting a comedy promoter who is not a straight white man? I think that's unrealistic, Anna.
Well, I don't think he's going to be a very good comedy expert for them when the whole of the comedy industry is clued up on him and most of them won't work with him. So I don't know how he's going to help them with their business anymore. Just even on a business, take your ethics and your morals out of it. Why would you want a grenade like that sitting in your office? Get someone who, knows what they're doing.
But there's been grenades like this hanging around the industry for a while and shit don't get done. I don't know, I personally was assaulted. I mean, I don't even know how long ago it was now. I mean, it happened twice from the same guy, but it was years ago, and it's such an open secret in the circuit. People know who it is, and it's not just me. It hasn't just come from me at all. Like when I'm just like the person who's most vocal about it. But whenever I told anyone about it who works in the industry, they were like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that." Like it's just known, and like, but how do these agents go to work? How do these agents live with themselves? How do people work with these? I don't know.
I think it could be the bystander effect as well. Like there's so much onus put on the victim, so we have to report it, we have to talk about it, we have to name them, we have to carry it, and everyone's kind of like, well, you know, if they haven't come out publicly, then maybe it's not that big of a deal or whatever, because it's too much stress for them to actually do the hard work. This is why I've been saying in posts as well that we need to have even amount of accountability and responsibility. Like it cannot be just on the survivors of this stuff, because we're fucking exhausted. Like I can't be fucked anymore. Can someone else do a little bit of the work, please?
Last night I had to put a post on my Facebook just to tell people to stop messaging me, because it's actually exhausting just constantly going through this stuff. Like I'm glad that we're talking about it. I'm really glad that we're talking about it. And if you want to show your support by leaving a comment on stuff, then that's absolutely fine. But I was getting a lot of like DMs from people who I barely speak to, who are asking for details and offering solutions that weren't solutions. At a time when I was trying to like get on with my night, they're like, there's a, you know, you want to give. I think this is the best way I would say it, is like, if someone close to you says that they've been assaulted and abused, talk to them, because you want people who are close to you with you. And I had loads of great chats yesterday with people who are close to me long into the night, you know, and I thank them for all that. But if you vaguely know me, please fuck off. Like, now is not the time to reconnect. If you wanted to be my friend, we've had years to get on. Right now is not the moment to be, hi, do you remember me from the Giggle Shack 9 years ago? Go away. Go away.
It's like they're looking for gossip kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like after my post, I had a lot of really lovely messages from people that I didn't really know, but they were just really kind of just one statement of support, which is nice. That's nice. But when it comes to kind of like, oh, when did it happen? How did it happen? Yeah. And it's like, you just want to wait until you're in the next green room. So you'll be like, I know how. Like, it's like, fuck off. You're not helping. You just turn it. If we just turn it into a gossip mill, then it's not actually taking it seriously.
Would you be able to comment on, because one thing that I think people are always flippant about, normally, you know, fucking dickheads anyway, but one thing that I do think people are flippant about is how much assault can affect a victim's career, particularly when you're working in comedy. I know, like, that was a big thing with the Louis C.K. People would say, oh, he didn't ruin their careers. They're just they weren't very funny. And, you know, they didn't enjoy him, whatever their fucking shit take is. But could you comment on how it, like, affected your ability to get up on stage and your drive to perform? Because presumably it did.
Oh, definitely. Because like it happened in February. The October just before that, I'd won Frog and Bucket World Series, and between October 2018 and Feb 2019, I was starting to get some momentum. I was doing some more paid gigs, and I was getting really excited, and I was writing loads. And then only now I reflect, from February onwards, I didn't want to do gigs. Like, I did gigs that were booked, but I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to really write. I felt like if I go to a gig, people will either know and they'll look at me and go, oh, that's the girl that did or whatever. And that's what they'll be concentrating on. But then I'd also be really self-conscious about getting intoxicated around my friends, because I didn't want to ruin their night. Like, because I knew that the moment I got intoxicated, I would be like, this happened and this is how I'm feeling and blah, blah, blah. And I remember just like, you see their face just kind of drop. And I know that they're depressed, because it's a depressing thing to hear that that's what your friend's going through. But I just feel so guilty. So yeah, definitely. I considered quitting comedy 3 times in the last year, because I just fell out of love with it. But like, I'm still on shaky ground with it, but I am coming back. Like, I am feeling more creative the more I kind of talk to my psych and get my brain back together and feel more like myself. But one of the things that I actually started to kind of conceptualize was that it was like my alter ego. It was like this shield that I had in front of me, who was this tough girl. She was the security guard. She was this boss ass bitch. She had been knocked down and beaten up by this violent act, and I didn't have her anymore. And suddenly I didn't feel like myself on stage. I didn't feel fierce enough to do the dark kind of style I do. So I did feel really out of place.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's something that people downplay a lot. Let's try and bring everybody into the chat a little bit. Yes. Now you've all seen people's reactions to these revelations in the last few days. A lot of names have been named. A lot of people. I mean, I see a lot of people saying attitude is going to change. How optimistic are you that these changes will be positive in the long run? Like, do you think people mean it? And
it's a strong sense of deja vu from about 3 years ago, whenever the last one was, to be honest. I definitely want to be optimistic, and I want to hope that things are going to change. And I don't know I don't know what it is. It does seem like it's like more is happening this time, but I don't know if that's just because I want to believe that or not. So I honestly don't know. It is interesting how these kind of big topics are like huge for like 3 weeks and then just immediately drop off. Like, not to compare it because they're very different things, but it's like the like white people supporting Black Lives Matter is basically none now because it's not trending. And obviously that's not the same thing, but I think it's the same kind of process where like everyone's talking about this. Everyone wants. I think everyone genuinely wants to play a part in making the circuit a safer place for everyone. But as soon as people who haven't been victims of it don't have to think about it, they will just forget it. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, hopeful.
It's difficult because as you kind of change as a person, like as I've changed as a person, my social media bubble would lead me to believe that things are looking better. But the minute I have to go, like, you know, to my job, things start to seem a lot more hopeless again when you hear what like the everyday person on the streets view of everything is. So yeah, I find it really difficult to know how much hope to have because of I don't really know everyone's view on it, and these types of issues. I don't know. I've lost my train of thought now, but yeah, it's very difficult to know how much hope you can have, or I guess you've just got to try and have hope and just keep pushing and
yeah.
I think the difference maybe with where this time around compared with previous times we've had this conversation is I'm seeing an attitude change from people who would normally be very apolitical when it came to things like this in comedy, and I'm seeing some of them really take a stand, and I'm seeing some of the you know, because you need support from the loud, successful ones, unfortunately, like, you know, the loudest, most successful people and I'm seeing support from them.
Yeah, definitely.
I wasn't sure whether the LCA was going to be a good thing or not, the Live Comedy Association, but it's certainly proven its worth with issues like this, because there is a more of a centralized idea of how this industry runs now. I mean, I've had a Zoom call with about 20 different venue owners through the LCA today, discussing the new government guidelines about reopening, and you know that centralized thing. I mean, we've been an industry without a HR department for far too long. It's an industry of contractors and self-employed people, and it's not been safe.
Yeah, definitely. So I think anyone can do comedy. Like, you don't need any CRB checks. Literally anyone can just get on stage, and you don't know what kind of person they're going to be in the industry. They could be an absolutely awful person, and we need to make the industry more safe by showing people that we're not allowing abusers in the industry. There's no place for them to be. So stopping performing for promoters who have done this, or stopping working for agents who have people on their books who are like this, and just kind of I think we need to pull together as a community and just go, no, you can all fuck off if you're doing this. There's absolutely no place for you in the industry. And it's a shame, because I spoke about quite a bit that I love comedy, and the fact that people don't feel the same safety and support that I've felt from the community makes me feel sick. So I want to make sure that anything I can do, not working for people who are like this, and I know there are a lot of pro acts who are doing the same, and I think it'll only be a short amount of time before the people who are abusers and don't have big acts working for them anymore go out of business. If people just boycott them completely, they won't be able to work in our industry.
It's a weird time, isn't it? Because, like, you know, a lot of like our industry is going to take a hell of a kicking over the next few months. I mean, the comedy industry won't really be back on its feet for another 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's actually a good time to get rid of abusers, because they're not going to be able to survive on little bits of work. You know what I mean? They're not going to be able to survive on a big corporate on the weekend, because that corporate literally doesn't exist. So it's a good time to take out the trash. Oh, someone's popped in the chat here. Hey, Red Coyote, how are you doing? There are regular in comedy audiences. Is there anything you think they could be doing to help as an audience member?
Oh. Don't heckle anything sexist.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like, because we're just looking for equality, aren't we? So, you know, just treat the acts the same, I'd say.
Yeah,
Maybe.
definitely.
But is there any... Sorry, like Anna in particular, like do you is there anything, have you, I don't know, are audience members shit to you? Is there anything in particular you'd like audience members to not do?
No, audience members have been, well, you know, there's been the odd like guy in Skipton or something that I would be very pleased not to see again, but like just more because they're going to be an arsehole to any act, whether, you know, you're trans, gay, girl, boy, whatever. They're just cunt. But one of the things that I don't like is when male comedians make sexist comments towards female members of the audience, or make a kind of like semi-sexist comment about the next female act coming on. I've been introduced as a female comedian, like they've actually said a female, like the vagina was going to get the mic or something, and it's like, and I think obviously, you know, we don't want to encourage heckling or anything like that, but audiences should feel comfortable enough to go up to a venue and say, look, I really do feel like that was unnecessary to call me a slut or something like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and hold them accountable, like, because within our own community we'll know when, you know, that joke just was a bad time to do that joke, and like that person isn't actually a bad person, they just fucked up that line and it came out terribly. But then we'll also as professionals know, no, that was actually a really misogynistic joke, or that was homophobic, and you should be called out on that kind of behavior. So yeah, because we don't hear all of the sets, we're in the green room. So
just on that note as well, I think audiences, I think most audiences are aware, but I think they need to be very aware of just the power of silence. Like, if someone says a joke that you're really not comfortable with, like, I don't think it's necessarily beneficial to call them out then and there within like, heckling isn't going to help, because they can come back from heckles. They can't.
Yeah, and then
they can't come back from silence. And then, if as well as that you are making complaints outside of the comedy gig as well, I think that can only be a good thing. But no, silence will have an impact. Particularly if it's a new act who's still kind of working this stuff out as well, it could push them onto the right path. If there's someone who's been like comparing the same way for 20 years, maybe not, but
How do you...
and as an audience member, demand diverse lineups. Like, if you get to a show and it's just all straight white men, make a point of complaining about it. Like, because a lineup should be reflective of the diversity of our society. And last time I checked, straight white men weren't the majority. Well, you know, and, you know what I mean?
They definitely are.
Oh my God. They are the majority.
Oh, sorry.
But like, as a booker as well, like, just the amount of acts that are out there, like, there's just no reason why any bill would be for white straight men. There's just no reason for it. It's just bad booking. It's just lazy.
I have managed to never do that in like the last year of running gigs.
Yeah.
I think the most we've had is maybe 3 on one lineup.
Yeah. I before this fucking I don't know if you heard about it. There's been a pandemic. Before all that. I booked a comedy stage for a music festival, one in Sheffield, one in Cambridge, or was it Oxford? It's down south, and it, really good budget. It was the first time I've been given like a serious budget to book a comedy stage lineup for a big music festival, and it was really easy to book 50-50. You know, a 50-50 split of women to men. It's so easy. You just do it. You just do it, and then it's done. But like, if and obviously it didn't happen because of the pandemic, but if it would have happened, it would have literally been like the first time fucking ever that there had been a 50-50 split comedy stage lineup at a music festival anywhere in the United Kingdom. And I just did it. You can just do it. Stop being pricks. Sorry.
Because all they're doing is just texting. The like straight white male bookers are just texting all of their mates.
Yeah,
do you want
it is that. It is just that.
Especially with festivals, I always get that vibe.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm like, I suffer from it as well. That you might turn up to one of my gigs and there'll be 2 trans people on it. You know, like I overbook my friends as well. But just, you know, balance it out.
Have more diverse friends. If all of your best friends are straight white men, that honestly is a bit of a red flag. If you don't have any close friends who aren't that.
You're creating too much of a bubble in your world.
Yeah. I've got a comment here from Tales of Whatever, who run a fantastic, it's like a spoken word comedy show in Sheffield. Absolutely fantastic people. Who are asking for practical things that they could do in terms of safeguarding, I suppose. Now, there will be guidance on this. I'd say become a member of the LCA. A true storytelling show. They've corrected me. Fair enough. But I'd say become a member of the LCA. There will be guidance on that. Is there anything that you would suggest as safeguarding moving forward for
believing people?
Sure.
Definitely.
Because I think like it's quite easy for people to doubt, especially if you know the person that they're talking about is someone you know or someone you thought was cool or whatever. But obviously there's the chance of someone insidiously lying to ruin someone else's open mic spot, which to be honest sounds like a little bit far-fetched really. But personally, I'd prefer to believe every single person that ever tells me it and find out that 1 out of 10 of them were lying. And then still I've believed 9 out of 10. And like, that's more of for to doubt 10 out of 10 and create more trauma for someone, because it's already horrific to tell someone it, because you feel like you're fucking around, you're fucking their day up, or you're fucking their lineup up. You feel this immense responsibility.
Yeah.
So just believe people for sure and respond to it accordingly.
I know, like, I've struggled in the last couple of days with, because obviously, like, whenever this comes up, and it does come up every few years, which is why some of us are reticent to believe anything. But every time it does come up, I have to be vocal about the times I was assaulted. And it's dead exhausting. And I was going to say something, but I've forgotten what it was. Sorry, what were you saying before? Because it was tied to that.
Believing people.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So I had a huge thing yesterday where I was reading this status in a forum. People were talking about exactly what we're talking about today. And someone was saying how, nothing gets changed because no one ever names any names and no one ever DMs me, so I never know who not to book. So I DM'd them the name of the person who assaulted me. And they said, well, I don't believe you because he's been my mate for 25 years. So they were literally spending all afternoon having a go at people saying, well, it doesn't change because you cunts don't name names. And then this cunt named a name and she was just like, well, no, not going to do anything about that.
So she
don't name names of people who aren't my mates.
Yeah. Well, that's
don't
like,
make me uncomfortable.
It felt like I'd been goaded into it, and I 100% believe that she will have gone to my attacker and said, this person has just said this about you. I 100% think that. And what's really disgusting about it is because I didn't know that was her intention. I thought she genuinely knew, so I messaged her so that she would know. But she was trying to get genuine, like, specifics. She asked me to send the police report, which I don't fucking have. Like,
and it's none of her fucking business.
Well, I did think that as well, but I knew that if I were to say, sorry, that isn't your business, and no, I don't have that, she'd go, well, it just sounds like you know, she's just gonna twist it into, so you are lying, sort of thing.
So people who've been abused need to carry a police report around with them at all times.
And look, so many people don't even have the courage to go to the police. So it's like, that's so maddening.
I've done exactly what they've asked me to do. I've done exactly what is asked of me. as a victim of. It's also worth mentioning that when I was first attacked, it wasn't really a time when you didn't report sexual harassment to the police. Like, you did for gratuitous, like for things a little bit more graphic than what happened to me. Mm-hmm. But like at the time, you really didn't. So I did go to the police probably 3-4 years after it happened, because you weren't reporting these things in 2010, 2011. It wasn't a done thing. We like, social consciousness has changed so much in the last few years.
Yeah, definitely.
So sorry, is that there?
No, it's upsetting. It's I think, and it's also that it's kind of, she was like, I think you said she.
Yeah.
She's gaslighting. Like,
yeah.
It's so, like, it's just so fucked up, and it's like, it's exactly why it's so difficult to be honest with people, because it's so scary, the idea of them saying exactly what she said to you.
Yeah.
It's weird that the person who's like, oh, this is like, who's going in the forum and saying it's the victim's fault because they're not telling us.
Yeah.
And then they're the type of person who doesn't believe the victims as well.
Yeah.
It's just weird that they can be so loud about it. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. But
it's like that public performance, really. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like that sort of public performance on social media where it's not, there's no meaning, there's no sort of anything behind it. It is, oh, I'm saying this because I feel I have to, though, maybe, to support people, but they're not supporting anyone. It's making themselves feel better, maybe. I think saying that they are, I don't know. But then when faced with actual, here, and not believing someone, it's it's that kind of, I don't know the right words for it, but putting things on social media, but not actually taking action as well, or support.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with, like, to see, like, Anna, you like named who assaulted you in your Facebook post, which I think is incredibly brave and is something that I've never been able to do. Like, I'll happily name him in DMs and whatever, but to be honest, he's actually threatened me with legal action. So like, I'd rather not make it too easy for him. I mean, the guy who abused me has got a close friend of mine, Jonathan Mayer, who you may know, fantastic comedian, drag queen, just all round brilliant human, sent me a message saying, like, look, whatever you want me to do, I will do, but I just want you to know your home address. Oh shit, I just said his name.
Well, done now.
Anyway, now we've said his name. I watched my friend do an online gig in Australia just the other day, and the next week they announced the lineup, and the headliner was him. I immediately emailed the woman that runs the gig and was like, look, just so you know, UK comedy scene knows a lot. There's a reason why he's not on fucking TV anymore. Like,
there is, like, like, people know. That's what's really fucking, what really fucks me off about it, is that it's known. I actually, so I mentioned I booked a comedy festival lineup this year. The year before, I booked the same festival, but I booked the lower down. I didn't book the headliners. The headliners were sent to us by another company, and they sent us his name. And I got a call from my office because someone in my office had gone, like, you should call Red about that. And I got a call, and I remember I was out for like a birthday meal with my parents, and I took a call, and they were just like, this has happened, what do you want us to do? And I was like, well, obviously he's not fucking playing the gig, he can go on fucking bollocks. But what I do want is, I want his agents to be made explicitly clear why he is not being allowed to perform on my fucking stage. And that was made clear to them, and they never responded. And it was around that time that I started kicking off again, and I made it public. This was a couple of years ago. And it was at that time that I know at least a dozen of my friends approached the two agencies that he's represented by, Glorious and Bound and Gag, let's not fuck about. and they didn't respond to a single one of those emails. If you're signed to one of those agencies, drop out your contract or set fire to the office the next time you're in there. It's not acceptable anymore. These people...
You can do both.
These people are trading... Oh, yeah, you can. But these people are trading off of people's suffering for 15%.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the sort of gigs that he's playing. 15% of his tour is fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Like, start representing queer comedians with actual futures. Yeah? Start representing underrepresented, marginalized acts who aren't fucking rapists. There's plenty of us out there.
100%.
You know, it's mental. These are meant to be professional companies. These are big companies.
Yeah.
You read it more. Oh, sorry.
No. Paisley, you haven't spoken that much, so you go.
Sure. Sorry. First of all, when my previous comment, when I was saying about people posting on social media, I meant that person who was saying that no one names anyone, and then you personally messaged them, and that's what I meant by it, not people that are coming out with their stories.
Yeah.
But the other thing was, I've lost my train of thought.
Oh, we're all getting it. It's hot. It's fine. It's hot. It's warm.
Yeah.
Reading, yes, yeah. Reading some stories that were coming up that agents that are aware or promoters that are aware, and they're turning around to other acts going, oh, well, this person's on, do you feel comfortable? And that person saying no, and then getting rid of that person. And they're not getting rid of the person that, you know, they obviously know there's a problem. And they shouldn't be booking them, but they are. And then who's not on the bill? You know, and I've been reading more and more stories about that. That there is agents that know, and there is promoters that know, and they're not doing anything about it.
So there are a couple blacklists being written up at the moment that, you know, are being done properly, and not just like, I've heard this name, okay, they go on the list. Being done properly. But I spoke to the people that are collating them over the weekend, and I didn't have to. His name was already on there. He's not being named by me. He's being named by other people. It's not just me. It's happened to loads of people. It's happening all over. It's happened throughout his career for over a decade now. I'm really bored of it. I'm really bored of it. I'm definitely fucking bored of going to Edinburgh every year and seeing posters of his face all over the place. And I'm even more annoyed at seeing so-called friends that I have told what has happened to me guesting on his guest show. Particularly ones that pretend to be feminists and working class in certain newspapers.
Like this idea that they're doing it to further their career. Like, no, fucking pull back.
But also, like, they're not going to get their career that furthered by him.
No, exactly.
He's not
like
selling your soul to the devil.
There's plenty of other people who are on the same level as him and aren't rapists.
I mean, I said, I saw someone discuss, like someone really high up, actually, someone who was on Live at the Apollo, was actually talking in one of these forums yesterday, and had said that they had never seen anything like this. And actually, the problem here is that the circuit is split into an amateur circuit and a pro circuit. And these abuses simply don't happen on the pro circuit. They only happen on the amateur circuit and are only predicated by open spots.
Wow.
Not a clue. But I responded saying, like,
you know, amateur abuser, the moment they get promoted to a professional, they'll never abuse anyone ever again.
Oh yeah, apparently.
That's how it works,
Apparently.
You get your Netflix show, it's fine.
You get it on your feedback form.
Yeah.
But so I responded to him going like, well, I've been assaulted twice. It's by someone that I know that you work with quite a lot. He's been Live at the Apollo. Both instances have been reported to the police, and he's a regular on QI. And he responded, well, he genuinely responded with, and I'm not, like, I can show you fucking screenshots if anybody wants to see these. He genuinely responded with, oh, well, I'm not talking about the gay community.
Oh, for
wow.
God's sake.
I'm not gay.
That makes no sense.
No. It's so illogical.
But like, this is like, that was a telly comedian. That was someone off the fucking telly. I mean, they're not on there anymore because, you know.
With you know how you said he's threatened legal stuff,
Yeah.
that you also know that other people have named him. Although I don't want to encourage anyone to do something that they don't feel comfortable doing. But when it comes to defamation and libel and slander and stuff like that, most of the time people will threaten that and ask you to apologize or take the post down or whatever, but they'll use fear because they know that they actually can't back it up.
No.
And also, like, with my statement, I'm not saying anything that's untrue. Everything I say in that, I can actually, even through police documents or whatever, prove that I have said consistently since February 2019. And then I've also stated not for anyone to abuse him and just to use this information professionally. And I'm doing it as in the eyes of looking after for the safety of others. So nothing in that is illegal. So that's actually not liable. Like, I'm not sitting here calling someone a nonce who's not a nonce, you know?
Yeah.
So don't let the fear rule your actions. That's one thing I just decided to not do anymore. I didn't want to. I actually had a nightmare of being chased by rapists, and I realized I was running away. Like that morning I woke up and decided to do the post because I was like, this keeps happening. I keep on running from people in my dreams, and I can't be asked doing that anymore. And I think the moment you stop living in fear, they lose.
Yeah.
So just fucking make them scared. Call them out, name them. I can't tell everyone to do that, but I just think
I have to say, like, it's definitely the fear that, like, it just fucks me. Like, the amount of times in the last couple of days where I've had to pull myself to one side and say, "Oh no, you're not. What you're doing isn't wrong." Like, do you get like you get like an internal feeling when you know you're doing something wrong? You're like, "Oh, you're doing something bad." You know, like. Maybe you're overtaking someone on a blind bend or something, and you're like, "This is bad." Well, you know, while you're doing it, you feel this is bad. And I've had that just from being vocal about this for the last 2 days, just constantly being like, "You're going to get fucked over." Why am I going to get fucked over? I've been fucked over. Yeah. What the fuck? Like, but that's where my brain's been at. So.
And that's where you naturally go as a survivor. There's always an element of, what did I do? Like, I must have fucked up somehow for this to happen, when that's not the case. Like there was no consent, so there's no way that actually could have happened. And you have to kind of retrain your brain. I feel like I'm dominating. I keep on talking too much. I'm sorry.
But it's hard for not it's hard, but like. I've not had any experience of this firsthand, so for me to like join the conversation is I'm more listening and, you know, trying to understand it, and you know what, and just seeing how tired people are of talking about it. And the weight that you've carried round, it's hard for me to like just butt in and like, because I don't actually know how valid my opinions are on this subject, because I don't have any experience of it, and I want to say stuff, but I don't want to. You know, there's better people who can say it than I can.
Everyone's opinion's valid. I think, even like if you've got a friend that's been through it or whatever, like, the trauma of sexual violence affects not only the person that it happened to, but also their close family members and friends. And so all of my friends who haven't been raped but have witnessed me go through this have been affected by it. And that I think, like, everyone's opinion counts. Like, everyone should be a part of the discussion, because if we make it only about the victims having a discussion, then it will be very insular. We need to involve everyone so they understand and can empathize without ever having to go through it.
It's also go ahead, Jonny.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think also an interesting point, and I feel like particularly assign male people, but I think all around generally, in fact, yeah, no, all around generally, you tend to downplay sexual assault in your own head. Like it's only like a few years ago I kind of came to terms that no, I have been sexually assaulted. These things happened, were sexual assault, because they weren't necessarily the kind of textbook kind of what you have in your mind of what a rape is. And I think it's very important that we are talking about it and coming and open about these things so people can actually kind of understand things that have happened to them and sort of come to terms with that. And I had a bigger point I was going to make. I've completely forgotten it. I think it is just it is really important. It is really important to talk about it, and it's really important to realize that like being coerced into a thing is still sexual assault. Even if there was no penetration, that's still sexual assault. All of these kind of things, you tend to. I mean, I'm certainly guilty of assuming that rape is a very specific act, and it's always violent. And obviously those kind of rapes do happen, and they're fucking horrendous. But it is more than that, and I think a lot more people than realize it have at some point been a victim of sexual assault. And I think the more we talk about it, the more open we are with it, the more people can come to terms with that and start the recovery, because it will be fucking you up somehow. You will be kind of burying it, and you don't think it's valid because other people have had it worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Can I jump on that with you?
Yeah, go for it. I'd finished my sentence. Fine.
It's so on point. Like all the way through it, I was like, yes. Like, there's three forms of rape, or the three major types of rape, and a lot of people kind of just visualize it as though it's the that Jodie Foster film where she got raped on the pinball machine or something. Everyone thinks that it's like that when actually that's quite uncommon. And there's unconscious rape, which obviously everyone understands, but then a lot of people don't understand the nuances of persuasive rape, which is a major type of rape that happens to male victims.
Especially in relationships. That's
absolutely a girlfriend guilt tripping their partner, going, do you not love me anymore, do you not find me beautiful anymore, and making them feel so bad. And that is rape. And guys don't know that like some of them don't even realize it's happened to them. They just know they're not happy, and that breaks my heart. That they because we're not educating kids in school about what consent is and what rape is. They're going through their life not realizing that they're being assaulted. It's horrific.
The one that kind of made me come to terms with it was I had an ex a few years ago who, I mean, we weren't together for long. It was a weird relationship anyway. It was kind of, the entire relationship was kind of non-consensual, really. I'd just come out of a long-term relationship, and we'd been kind of seeing each other, but I was like very clear that like I'm not ready for another long-term thing. And then I was kind of like coerced into that. And then he had a bit of a sexual health scare like a couple of weeks after that. And so I was like being really rational with it. It's like, okay, fine, we'll go get tested. But until then, I'm not really comfortable engaging in any sexual activities. Like, even though that if we'd already done it, it would have been passed on. I was just like, I'm really not comfortable with this, which I think is a perfectly valid boundary. And then she full on threw a tantrum and started hitting me because I wasn't having sex with her at that point. And it wasn't like, even now I'm doing that thing where I'm downplaying it. Like it didn't particularly hurt. It was more like when like a child was having a tantrum because not getting what they want. But that's still like emotionally, like, and this was like 2 a.m, something like that. I couldn't just kind of kick her out. So I like really stuck. I had enough. I couldn't do anything in that. And then after that, I broke up with her, and like I had the support of a lot of friends, and even my long-term ex before, who I'd been horrible to be honest, was like really helped me out with that. And then I managed to like break up with her, and then essentially never see her again, which was good. But yeah, it's like I had to be told over and over again that is rape before it sunk in. I kept trying to justify it, and even now, like a bit, I am trying to downplay it. And that's not a thing you should do. Like, if it's fucked you up, it's like
but survivors of rape downplay it, whether it's even the aggressive violence, all the way to it's just a natural.
Someone's always had it worse in your head, and it's
and you almost don't want to believe it happened. Sometimes it feels like it's easier to blame ourselves than to actually, like, after it happened with the person I've named, for a couple of weeks I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
like, how weird is that? Like, that had just happened to me, and I was going, oh, that's so sad that he doesn't know what he did. Like, and it's like, he did fucking know what he did. Like, but I'm trying to figure out a way to sympathize, because I can't imagine why anyone would do that to someone else. But yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to see some people's reactions as well. Like, I don't know if you've seen comedian Tom Little's most recent status. It was quite fantastic comedian, and just it's interesting to see. One thing that I've found being in comedy, particularly having been in it for 10 years, is just slowly watching everyone's mental state deteriorate around you. And you know, I've been guilty of it as much as anybody else, but there are some serious ego casualties out there. Like, this is a industry that awards narcissism above anything else, and there are some real casualties of that. And every now and then there's the odd 40 plus 50 plus comedian who you just find on Facebook just gone fucking feral, just with like 5G. I saw one of them talking about how D-Day was a conspiracy theory. I didn't fully understand what he was saying.
Oh God!
I don't understand what they mean. They're very angry, and they've eaten a lot of eggs this week. They have. They really want you to know how many eggs they've eaten. Weird. But what I'm saying is, look after yourselves. Like, this is a tricky business, and it's a business about, you know, putting yourself on a spotlight, yourself and a stage, and having hundreds of people look and laugh at you. It's, you know, you've really got to take a step back from that if you want to remain a taller, functional human.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about, Red, but I know that you're directing the discussion, so I don't know whether you've got this plan to pop up in a second or anything. But with female abusers.
No, go ahead.
So firstly, I want to make a complete statement to anybody from the comedy industry listening that I think it's extremely misogynistic that you think I, as a woman, am incapable of raping anybody. Okay? I could do it. All right? Like, don't underestimate me. We're able to commit violence.
Don't go there.
It's equality, damn it. Like, but,
that quote is going to be taken out of context. I hope you know that.
I know. I went from naming someone to someone naming me. But I think it's like it's detrimental to both sides of the argument. So it's detrimental to male victims, obviously, because if we don't believe that female rapists exist, then we won't believe that their victims exist. But then it also is detrimental to a female victim, because it's always putting this victim status, like, that we are weaker, that there's no way. Does that make sense? Like, not that it's strong to rape, but it's like there's no two sides of the coin. You're either one or the other. So you guys can add to that, because otherwise I'll just
you know, the like, that person who I got goaded into messaging the other day was a woman, and it's interesting to see how women play their part in, you know, abuse in this industry. You know, it's not expected, but sadly it is true. You know, like I know another case that I can't really talk about, because it's not my place to say, but, like, you know, there are abusive women in this industry. This is an industry, again, I just said it, but, you know, it's an industry that rewards narcissism and egos and all of that, and, you know, abuse is not confined by gender. It knows no bounds.
Yeah. A rapist is a rapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any, like, particular differences you think in how women abuse compared to men?
Well, there's
anybody on
more
this?
Persuasive, I know that, and drugging kind of thing.
I think because men, like, I've not really spoken about it, and I don't, because it wasn't part of the industry. It's a personal thing I'm not going to. But I think, kind of, as a society, we see men as these people who, like, always want sex.
Yeah.
So when it happened with me, and I was like, no, I don't. I felt like I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
In a way, because I had this image in my head of, no, I'm a man. I need to want sex all the time because that's what we're does. So like, it's only kind of been the last couple of days when I'm like, well, no, when my ex kicked me out of her house and blocked me on all social media because I wouldn't have sex with her, where she'd kind of get very aggressive because I wouldn't do this. That wasn't okay, and I was I'm kind of annoyed myself. I gave in and was just like, no, I'll do this because I'm a man. I should want to do this. So I think there needs to be a massive shift in that kind of, just the way men are depicted, so men know that they can say no if they just don't want to sleep with someone. Like, that's okay to not want to.
And people always like aligning rape with sexual pleasure. Like, it's actually just a power.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
It's also worth knowing that you can still, like, on a visceral level, enjoy the act, and that can still be rape. Like, that's
yeah. Your body can kind of betray you.
Yeah.
Like,
it will go through the motions, as it were, and you will probably feel those things, but that's like,
it's interesting.
It's really conflicting in your own kind of, like,
fuck you up on another level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Has anybody, like, I haven't personally, I can't remember if I have anyway. Has anybody ever, like, had like received non-consensual, like, dick pics or graphic images, things like that? Because I know, like, that's endemic of some of the abuse that's happening on the circuit as well. One particular person was named. I think at one point there were 25 people had come forward, or 24 people actually. Let's get it correct. Had at one point come forward to say that they had received inappropriate messages from him, including his own dick pic to images of gang rape. And I don't, like, because that's, again, like, you're right, it's about power. Like, he's getting off on making someone feel uncomfortable, sending a message to their phone. Sorry?
It's modern day flashing.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but you're totally right.
It should be a summary offence, in my opinion, because you can link flashing to the sexual violence spectrum, where it will end up as a rapist. So as long as we can actually make that link to dick pics, fine. And imagine the amount of money we could make off just a week of dick pic fines, like that alone.
Actually, that's a really fucking good point. Actually,
also, it's one of those things where it's also very easily evidenced.
It's
exactly.
Also, it's like it'd be a really fun app to develop.
Yeah.
Like, you're putting people in work, you're getting app developers. They're doing, like, the fucking Snapchat filters on dicks. Trying to get dick recognition, but facial recognition, but for dicks. That'd be fun.
Just do it to, like, you could even align it to IP address or mobile number or whatever, and get it sent out. But the reason why I started thinking about this is the day after I got told that my court case was not going to happen because it was circumstantial evidence, the next day I got sent a minute-long wanking video from an ex-comedian that I know from Melbourne, followed by a load of abusive messages. And I was like, oh, wonderful. What a fantastic 48 hours I've had for myself. And for ages I wanted to get him. I wanted to, like, get an intervention order out against him. And then I just thought, actually, I'll just try and change it get all the dickheads instead. So I'm actually trying to educate myself on the laws and see if I can talk to my local MP about changing stuff in Melbourne.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what people should be doing. I think if there's a good example of, like, of this and how it's affected, like I mentioned, there was a comedian where quite a number of people have come forward to say that they've received these inappropriate messages. It's worth mentioning, like, they've only very recently, been dropped by their agent, despite, like, I mean, I remember when this all came out. This came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe. This came out years ago. So for that 2 to 3 year period, his agents were absolutely fine working, and that's what needs to change in the fucking industry. Because I mean, they did eventually drop him, but only because like people were kicking up a big storm. They weren't they weren't there when, you know, when it was made apparent to them. Like, I mean, we can show you the fucking messages. It seems so obvious. 3 people in the end did testify against him in court. Like this was a legit thing. This was done properly, and his agents stood by him for years. Fuck this industry.
Definitely.
And if you know of an industry that's got someone dodgy on it, email them. If you know someone on their books, email them and get them to talk to their management. If you see them at a venue, email the venue. Like, I think this is a fucking. I think that this is a war to be won. I really do. I don't think people will fucking stand for it. And I know Red Coyote mentioned earlier in the chat what audience members can be doing. You can be doing exactly this as well. You can be talking to agencies. Why not? What it's like? I think that's one of the problems with the comedy industry. It's so insular. It's only us that knows who's fucking running the show. But you can get on Google and you can find who these people's agents are. You can talk to their management. You can say that you don't approve of them representing known abusers.
Use your Karen energy for good.
Yeah.
Yes. Speak to the manager.
Yeah. Speak to the manager of systemic
this situation
abuse.
calls for a Karen thing.